My name is Gaughran, Head of Architecture in Vechain. I joined Vechain in August last year. I've been a software developer for many years. My qualification is in engineering from Trinity College in Dublin. I live in Dublin and delighted to be here today. I'm going to talk about VORJ. Just to start with the basics, we talked about Web3 and I think this schema, we've been on a journey. Web 1 as a kind of read-only static experience, Web 2 more interactive, and now we're in the world of Web 3. The formal definition from Wikipedia is a new iteration of the web which incorporates concepts such as decentralization, blockchain technologies and token-based economics. And as a prelude for something we might talk about in the future, Web 5 talks about taking that to another level, with concepts such as decentralized identifiers, verifiable credentials, and decentralized web nodes. So VORJ, some definitions. So VORJ, what is it? It's a no-code Web3-as-a-service platform, attempting to remove the barriers to creating digital property. It simplifies smart contract creation through a new user interface. And it comes from the phonetic spelling of forge with an F, to make or shape an object by heating it in a fire. And you access that quite simply through VORJ.app. It has a rich set of APIs and the Swagger documentation is freely available online. We'll get into that in a minute, and the documentation as well. So I'll just give a whistle-stop tour through some of the concepts which are really important for VORJ and some of the things later as well. So we talk about smart contracts, which is a program or protocol intended to automatically execute, control, or document events and actions according to the contract. There's a lot of talk about NFTs, which we know. They're a unique identifier recorded on the blockchain to certify ownership and authenticity, which cannot be copied, substituted, or subdivided. And then the metadata that is behind that, which is crucial, specified in JSON format, okay? And that usually describes the characteristics and the properties such as name, description, history, etc. Semi-fungible tokens are also supported on VORJ. What are they? They're a new type of token which kind of combine a non-fungible and fungible token. The use case that is often alluded to is a ticket for an event, okay? So it starts off as a fungible token, you might exchange it, but once the event is over, it becomes an NFT. Okay. Gas fees, what are they? A term that's used to describe the costs to use the network. Okay, you pay a fee. Minting is the creation of the coin or the token on the network, and we'll mint a token later on. We have APIs that provide indexing services. Vechain Stats alluded to, I think, their indexer. But what is that, right? I guess it's to address the common requirement to be able to quickly and efficiently query on-chain data. Okay, that might be balance, it might be NFT data. So it's quite common for companies or individuals to provide an indexer and expose that through some sort of API. So when you hear about an indexer later, that's what that's referring to. IPFS is a protocol to allow storage in a distributed fashion of data that might be related to NFTs or otherwise. We'll talk about the EIPs and ERCs. What are they? EIPs are proposals for improving the Ethereum network in this case. ERCs are proposals for creating new standards or tokens, okay? VORJ supports UUPS, which is Universal Upgradable Proxy Standard, EIP 1822. That may be used to fix bugs or upgrade existing behavior. So we have APIs to support that in VORJ. And just to kind of highlight a few considerations, I guess. Well, first of all, it's not meant for production use. It's currently in beta. And we offer a free plan, and that will be evolved in the future with paid plans, which we don't have, but we will. Some might say, well, VORJ, that feels like a centralized service. It is purposely though, right? It's there, I guess, to remove barriers. However, you may, once you create a smart contract or an NFT, you may transfer that contract out of VORJ. But but I guess the point is it's built to help you do something that might be difficult otherwise. You may not be technically minded to be able to do so, which is why we built VORJ. And some of the benefits, apart from the simplicity, which hopefully you'll see in a minute, you don't need to worry about your wallet, you don't need to worry about fees. They're managed by VORJ, which are paid for using the property of the blockchain. So I alluded to it, the contracts are owned and controlled by VORJ, but then you can transfer those. So the choice is yours. We're also working on being able to list NFTs that you can create on VORJ on World of E, and that will be available shortly. And at the moment you can say, if you create an ERC20, you can list those on a decentralized exchange. So I'm going to show you the front end and the back end. The front end, so the back end is a rich set of APIs. Currently in the front end, we offer the ability to create ERC20 and 721 smart contracts, but that's going to evolve, okay? What APIs do we support on VORJ? So ERC20s, which are probably the most common. They're fungible tokens, allow you to transfer tokens from one to the other. You can get balances, you can get the total supply. You can set them to be burnable or not, pausable. And I'll go through this quite quickly. There's a lot here. So 721 is also supported, which is a non-fungible token standard. Again, useful for collectible items. We heard the use case in ExoWorld and elsewhere. Access keys, lottery tickets, concert, and so on and so forth. Title deeds, you name it. We also support the ability to burn and pause them or not. And we have different minting approaches as per the standards. And there's new standards, right? We have the ERC 1155, popular in gaming. That can handle that mix, non-fungible, fungible, semi-fungible. ERC 4626, which is a standard for tokenized vaults, which would be common in DeFi scenarios and useful for things like borrowing and lending, farming, staking. Okay, and we've other standards there that we support. And we'll talk a little bit in a minute about our APIs for upgradable smart contracts. And through the evolution of VORJ, we also have a contracts API, a blockchain API, and a marketplace API, which I'll explain in a second. So if I want to sign up and create a new account, okay? So you'd be familiar with this type of interface, a Web 2 style interface to bridge the gap with Web 3. I've read the terms of service. Click next. So we have an element of two-factor for security reasons. Okay, so that's your VORJ account created. The first thing you're prompted is to join an organization or create an organization. This allows you to apply a structure to your enterprise or if you're a small business. Organization name, Jacksonville org. I'm going to apply a default image. So now I've created an organization of VORJ. As you can see, very simple. We'll have paid plans. At the moment it's free, so I'm going to choose the free plan. And then I can add my team. I have a team of one. I'm a small business, so for this case, I won't invite anybody. Just click next. I'm going to name my project, so Jack's project. And I'm going to go on testnet. Okay, so mainnet or testnet as your choices. I'm going to give it this nice image here. Finish. So now you have the basic structure to do what you want to do. Okay, I've one project here with this nice image. Okay. And the first thing I want to do is create a smart contract. Now, before I do that, I need to decide for this project what resources I want to allocate, which allows me as an owner to limit for the organization the number of calls that can be made through my plan. Okay. So I'm going to allocate all the resources. In the interest of fair use, we've obviously limited this for the free plan. Okay, so I've allocated all the available resources to this project, and then I'm ready to go, right? So you can see 2 minutes standing at a slightly different angle than I'm used to. I can create a basic structure to create a smart contract. I'm I'm just going to go ahead a little bit and also create I'm going to create an API key, which I'm going to use for the API demo. And I'll explain what that is in a minute. So it's very simple to create a new key. So, whoops, my emojis are popping up. Jack's key and Jack's project. So I assigned a key to a project, okay? And I want to give it all permissions, read and write. Okay, so that's the key. I'm going to copy that to my little notepad, or I can download it as a CSV file. But that key isn't stored, importantly, by VORJ. That is left with the user. Okay, so that key is there. In fact, I had a default key, which I forgot, but I wanted to show you anyway. So that's your key. So let's say I say, okay, I want to create an ERC20. Very simple interface. Select a fungible token, which we talked about earlier. We give it a name. So Jack's token. We're going to give it a symbol, Jack's 123. Number of decimals, 2. Max supply, 1000. So these are the properties of an ERC20 token. Okay. You can decide if they're burnable or not. I'm going to make it burnable and pausable. Again, conforming to the standards set out by Ethereum. And then I'm going to deploy it. And then you got to wait 2 minutes. Okay, so that's going to work in the background, and we'll come back to that. In the background, that's been deployed until we've detected that's gone through 12 confirmations. We won't make that available for minting. So while that's happening in the background, I'm going to create an NFT. Okay, so same interface again. Token name, Jack's NFT. Token symbol, Jack's 23. And in this case, you can see, similar to before, I can make it burnable or not, pausable or not, selective, okay, which is down to the minting approach. So it can be minted sequentially or selective. I'm going to choose selective. Royalties receiver address. So I'm going to assign this address for royalties, which is one of the features of ERC 721, and I'm going to give myself 10%. A little bit greedy, but that's what I've decided. 10%. I'm going to drag those images for the 2 mints of my NFT. Transformative artwork, so I'm going to give it a description, and then I can set up to 5 attributes through this interface. Okay, so it was 2 attributes, and we have 2 tokens for the images that I uploaded, and the attributes will have values. And then I'm going to deploy that. So it's as simple as that. So I've deployed that, I need to mint it. I'm going to let that deploy. I'm going to go back to the other one if I've nicely burnt 2 minutes. Let's see the success of that. There you go. So this has a nice interface at the bottom. So you can see here the one that isn't deployed is the one that's in progress in the background while the chain goes through 12 confirmations. So you can see here that this token has been deployed, which is the first one I did, if you remember, and I'm going to mint this. Okay, so I think there's 1,000, and our indexer has picked up that it has 1,000 in supply. I'm going to decide to mint this token to this very lucky address, and I'm going to mint 100 tokens to that address. Okay, it's done. So you can see in 5 minutes you can create your own token, and in the background the NFT has deployed. Okay. Okay, so you can see the NFT. So again, we wait for 12 confirmations on VORJ with our indexer. So we've detected that's available now. So again, that lucky address, we can mint to that address. And if you remember, when we created the contract, we chose chose 2 tokens, and I'm going to decide just to mint token 1 for the moment, and the other one I'll leave. Okay, so I'm going to mint that, and again it'll take take a minute or two for that to mint. But that's it minted, it's on testnet, it's there to use. If I wanted to do it on mainnet, I just would have chose mainnet as a project. So I can use this for testing. So again, if I want to play with it, I can use testnet. And when I'm ready to go, I can just repeat that on mainnet, literally minutes. And then I mentioned, in terms of VORJ, you can then choose to transfer that out. So, you might just take a very short-term view. You don't want VORJ to manage it after you do the initial creation. I can transfer that to another address. So it's truly decentralized in that case. So we give you that choice. So that's a very quick tour of the front end. We're working a lot on it to add more support. There's some stuff I didn't go to any detail. There's different settings, account management, show quickly allocating resources, but they're obviously the two most common use cases that I showed. So that kind of addresses the non-technical user. You don't need to know anything about Web 2, RESTful APIs. You just need to understand some of the basics, why you'd want to create the tokens, what does pausable mean, what does burnable mean, max supply. So some of those kind of important things as an artist, for example, I think someone mentioned they had an artist background. Once you understand those things, that's the idea, it reduces the barrier to entry. I'm going to show the APIs. Let's see how far we want to go with this, but we'll give it a whirl, right? But some of the concepts that are important, right? What's an API key? So you can see there, I use the front end to create an API key. It's really just used for authentication and authorization. So we ensure that the person or the computer that's trying to do something is authorized and they've also been authenticated. I won't show you the use of tokens. We also use JWT tokens, which again is a security mechanism based on an open standard used to share information between the two parties, in this case, the client, me as an API user, and the server being VORJ, okay? And again, the keys aren't stored on VORJ, okay? It's up to you to remember those keys. But remember, you can create a new key if for some reason you've lost the key. In terms of using the API, the one thing to just remember at the moment, you got to create an account like I showed you through the front end, and then after that, everything I showed you, you can do through the API layer. The API layer you can access on your laptop or phone, api.vorj.app. It uses Swagger, which is a common way to represent how to interact with an API. So anyone that's a Web 2 developer might be familiar with Swagger, okay? So you can see here, I'll just flick through them really quickly. They're in different categories. We have our blockchain API, carbon API, contract API, our ERC20. So our front end is using these APIs, and we'll try and do a quick demo of that. So before I run out of time, we have ERC721, ERC1155, 4626, and two VIPs. Okay, we have a marketplace API, which I'll allude to in a minute. The organization APIs, if you are an enterprise and you want to programmatically create an organization, if you see fit, and then create a project and create a team with the APIs for that. So almost everything that I showed you on the front end is accessible through the API. And then other supportive APIs here. We view UPS, which are the upgradable contracts, user API for managing the user, if again you don't want to use the portal. So think enterprise, big business that want to integrate at that level. So again, we've created an account, and then you can start using the APIs, okay? I'm not going to show the API for creating an account, but the API is there. So to create an organization, you just do a post request and you fulfill the request body, and that will create an organization through the API, if you're so inclined, okay? So you might be a large customer that's creating organizations on behalf of your user. It really depends on your use case, but we made that available. Then you can create your project. So you might have a project for mainnet, project for testnet. You can do that programmatically through the API. The keys can be created programmatically through the API or through the front end, which is available here. So we've created our project, and then again we've an API for each of the contracts that I mentioned. So ERC721, let's give that a little whirl. So what we'll do is I have the API key that I just created for that new account. So what I want to do is create an ERC721 directly with the API. Okay, so what do I need to do first? So all of these APIs, I'm going to use Swagger to say, okay, I want to use this API key for all of the transactions that I'm going to execute now. So I'm going to paste that in. That'll authorize, and then I'm going to go down to the ERC 721. I'm going to try it out. And for the JSON that I'd prepared earlier, I'm going to copy it into Swagger, delete that boilerplate. So this is going to create, just update it to show I'm not pre-canning this. So we've demo ERC 721. Its type is ERC 721. I'm making it burnable, pausable, selectable. The symbol is called test, max supply of 2. And I have 2 tokens, one of a cat and one of a dog. Okay, so let's try and execute that. So that's basically calling that API through Swagger. Swagger provides this nice utility to be able to test your RESTful APIs. And it's given me a response code 200. So that now has been created. It hasn't been deployed on the chain. So the way we've constructed the APIs is it allows you to create a contract in draft format effectively. So it's not deployed yet. Okay, so then you mightn't be fully ready to deploy it even on testnet, but you have some work done. So it's effectively a way of drafting a contract on VORJ. So that has an ID. So the next thing I need to do now that I have created that contract is to deploy it. So we have a separate API for deploying, which should be down below somewhere. It's this guy here. So all I have to do is give the ID for the contract that I just created on VORJ, and then I execute. So we got a response code 200. So that is now been submitted to the chain, and it'll go through 12 confirmations, and we should be able to see it on the front end in a couple of minutes. Okay, so we've created an ERC 721. We've deployed it to the chain, and the last step is minting. And guess what? We have a minting API, which is just here. So you pass the smart contract address for the token I've just deployed, and you pass that address in that API. Simple as that. Should be able to see it soon on the front end. So you can see you can do a mixture using the front end and the back end depending on the choices up to the developer. So I go back in here. You can see here my allowance of 5 has gone down to 2. This one hasn't been deployed yet, so that's the demo one. So when that's deployed, it'll be available, and it can either use the front end or use the API to then mint it. Simple as that. So as you can see, we have a richer set of APIs in the background, and we'll start to support more through our iterative releases with the team that's working hard on this for the last few months. There's more to show, so I'll just try and go quickly just in the interest of time. So we talked about minting. I've skipped the minting step, but I've done it through the front end, but it uses the same API. I don't know what type of contracts you use to upgrade your smart contracts. We support UUPS, and again, you can programmatically call those through the API layer. So that allows you to upgrade or modify your smart contract without losing the underlying data. Also have a contracts API, so there's more detail in Swagger, but that shows the contracts a project owner has deployed. So again, you might want to do that programmatically. It allows you to create dashboards. So you can just imagine an enterprise that might integrate with this, so it has support for that. And probably the most crucial one for the Web3 enthusiast is that you can use the API then to transfer your ownership, or you can do it through the front end as I showed. Okay, and there's more details there. We have a blockchain API, which is effectively an API that wraps the indexer. Our indexer is 12 blocks behind the VechainThor blockchain, which is basically a strategy for confirming that the transactions are valid for indexing. You can look events happening on chain, what's happened in the past, and so on. Marketplace API, just to point this out, so if you're an artist and you have a collection, you might want to use this API. Again, it's available just at the API level at the moment. It's integrated by World of E, so they use this API right now. You might be an artist that has a marketplace, you want to look at your analytics. And again, that uses the indexer in the background. So especially for NFTs, it absolutely needs an indexer. You can use that API to do that. And in terms of roadmap, paid plans, that's an obvious one. So we just have free plan at the moment, which is restricted for reasons we mentioned. 4226 is on the more immediate roadmap for VORJ. One of the key things is to be able to integrate with fungible pools and marketplaces. So World of V use our API, but we want the ability to list your contract or your tokens on a marketplace very simply. It's kind of, I guess it's, what would you call it, the last mile for this. So right now it's very, very simple. I can deploy and mint, but I've nowhere to easily put them. You can integrate them, but it takes some work. Okay. So that would be the next step. Looking forward to it. So, if there's nothing else, we'll move on. Yeah. Great.